Every business has a logo, and when it's yours, it matters. GPS is a 30-year local Las Vegas company that produces custom merch, like hats and apparel, drinkware and totes, blankets and bandanas, really any kind of swag you can imagine that features your logo or message. They're experts at finding or creating the right products for the season and the reason that fit your budget and timeline. Check out the GPS website at gpslasvegas.com, where there's a world of products to promote your brand. Good morning. It's Friday, so let's talk news. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm here with Nevada Current journalist Michael M.J. Lyle and my co-host David Figler, and we're covering the UNLV football scandal, a new online-only absentee voting system in Nevada, and Mackle-No-More? More like Mackle-less. It's Friday, September 27th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hello, MJ. Hello, David.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So, David, you've got a hot headline for us this week. You caught a surprise performance of Chris Martin of Coldplay at a local dive bar.
I did, and my video is one of two that went viral.
Wow.
Cool.
My friend Lori was standing right next to me, and we were both taking videos as a thinly disguised Chris Martin of Coldplay entered into Dino's, the favorite dive bar of many, getting people drunk since 1962, as they proudly proclaim. Walked in kind of a schleppy gray suit, big glasses, bulky glasses with tape on them.
Weird wig.
And a weird wig, and carrying a red balloon, which, 9 times out of 10 doesn't even draw any attention at a place like Dino's.
Yeah,
Because
and in Vegas at large.
People carry a lot weirder things than balloons into that bar.
Yeah.
That said, the guy went to the bar, he ordered a glass of milk, he sat in the crowd, everyone is just doing regular karaoke nights.
They got milk at Dino's?
A glass of milk.
Well, how would you make a White Russian without it?
Creamer. Coffee creamer. No, I'm
Creamer.
kidding.
Okay.
Creamer.
I mean,
You
whatever.
don't want milk right
Yeah.
before you sing.
I don't think he was actually drinking it. I think it was part of a shtick, and there were people
Okay.
following him around with some cameras. So I believe this was probably a video in the making of sorts. That said, he sat there patiently and kindly and was very gracious with applause for the karaoke folk who went up before him,
Cute.
including a lawyer acquaintance of mine who, just did a regular song, and he got his applause from Chris Martin. And then the karaoke guy was like, next up, Chris. And the dude walked up and played a song that no one had heard before, but it was on the karaoke machine. It had the words coming out and the whole deal.
That's cool.
And the first second he hit those sweet honey high notes that only Chris Martin can, really,
Obviously him.
everyone took out their cell phones. But it was too late. I was already recording. Ha ha.
David, I have to ask, did you get tipped off as a member of the media that something was happening?
As a member of the media, I did not get tipped off. I love that wording. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, as a David Figler, you got tipped off. That's what it was. I was like, this can't be coincidence.
I'm not saying anything more. CityCast has a story on the website about it, so go check that out. Maybe it'll give you more insight.
All right, so let's get into some news. Actually, David, we're going to come right back to you because...
Oh boy, no rest for the wicked.
You're going to tell me about UNLV star quarterback who's decided to sit out the rest of the season. What's going on?
Okay, so this is probably going to wind up sounding like Charlie Day on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the FBI string theory board where he's got the conspiracy running.
Good meme.
There are so many players and moving parts to the story, which has captured national attention because apparently it's the first time that a college athlete has decided to forego the season to maintain redshirt eligibility, in other words, to be able to play again next season, over a dispute on name, image, and likeness compensation, or NIL, as it's called. Apparently, it's happened many times before where people kind of take their marbles and go home if they don't get what they want or transfer, et cetera, but it has never been this public as a direct line. So let's get into the story as quick as I can. And I'm not a college football guy. I'm not a football guy. I don't know a lot about it. I know when the home team wins, that's good. And when the home team loses, you're not as happy. This home team has been winning.
UNLV is undefeated. Yeah.
Undefeated. And for the first time in UNLV football program history, they are nationally ranked as a team. They're all the way up to number 23 right now, which is unprecedented as well. So a lot of eyes on UNLV. And as you said, the star quarterback, Matt Sluka. So Matt Sluka says, I did not get the money that I was promised essentially to sign to UNLV, and they've been jerking us around. And his dad came out, and his agent, he has an agent who's a former professional football player named Marcus Cromartie with an entity called Equity Sports. And they said, yeah, they had promised him all this money. We didn't get it in writing, but they promised him $100,000 and they didn't pay, so he's not going to be treated like no punk. And that's it. He's pretty much done. He's waiting now to go into the portal, be transferred to another school.
Wow.
Not in writing? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, but I also didn't realize, I thought he was sitting out until he got his money, but like he's going to leave. The plan is he's going to leave.
It's highly unlikely at this point that they're going to work it out because it's gone so public, so hot. Some people say there's still a chance, but it's hard to say that, given all what I'm about to explain, it's going to happen. His family is saying publicly that in the winter when he was getting recruited by UNLV to come, he was promised allegedly by an offensive coordinator on the team, an assistant coach named Marion, last name Marion, that if he came to UNLV, they'd work it out where he would get $100,000 of payment.
Wow.
Now, under the NCAA rules, as of today, though that is in the process of changing, there is no pay for play. A school cannot directly pay a student athlete to perform as a quarterback or any other position.
Yeah.
What has come up since the United States Supreme Court says you can't exploit student athletes is this thing called NIL. And all the schools, including UNLV, have created this convoluted system to get money legally to athletes.
So wait, the gist of this story is this athlete was promised $100,000, right?
Thank you,
NIL.
Sarah, for gisting me here.
I'm going to gist you just a little bit, just to make sure I understand. Right, but it wasn't in writing. And so basically that money has not come through. And so he's like, okay, I'm out. Is that the gist?
Yes, you got it.
Okay, so pay for college athletes has been the topic of debate for a while because there is this issue that these athletes, especially star athletes, are bringing in a lot of money for universities, but at most they get a free ride. And if they're coming from, a lower income household, that often means that they don't have money for anything else, that they're literally starving because they can't afford to buy food when they're on the road. So where do we fall on this idea? They're getting a free ride to college, right? They're being paid in one way, but they're not professional athletes. I don't know. MJ, do you think that this quarterback is being a diva, or are they in the right to refuse to play?
I mean, outside the audacious $100,000 not in writing, I think in general, yes, athletes should be getting paid. Like, we should be taking this on. This whole situation sounds so suspect, though. Outside of this situation, I think, yes, student athletes clearly need to be getting paid, and we need to figure out a regulatory process that makes us transparent so we don't have back deal shady.
We don't have 6 different entities and 10 different people making representations. Yes.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I fall on the side of like, I do think student athletes need to be paid because they're literally working for these universities, and compared to the millions and sometimes billions of dollars they bring in, they're usually not seeing any of that. But clearly this is a mess. But I mean, he's a student athlete. He's not in contract. He can leave at any time.
The mess of it all is why I am actually siding with UNLV on this particular one based on what we know so far. Although it is a little obfuscated as to what we know because of all these different entities. Look, here's the deal. I will accept as fact that an offensive coordinator made a representation, hey, we'll work it out. You'll wind up getting $100,000 out of this if you come through. But obviously, they can't pay him directly under the existing rules.
Yeah.
When he didn't have that come together, I guess, timing-wise, after he became a winning quarterback and felt maybe that he and his agent and his family felt that he was invaluable to the system, that this would be a good time to press the point and not necessarily be patient. But UNLV is describing this as potential extortion, And I don't disagree that the timing and the manner seems to be more like that.
David, since you've gone real deep on this, what contracts or guidance or regulations
Too deep.
Could resolve this issue across the board? Like, what does need to be in place?
I think the bottom line, the easiest thing as far as resolving this is probably going to happen through the courts because it's underway right now where they are reconsidering. In fact, it's basically a done deal that they're going to allow schools to pay directly, that we don't need all these weird-ass entities
convoluted,
that are shuffling money around to try to get that money. Because at the end of the day, schools do profit off of the student athletes. They make direct money off of the performance of these athletes who put themselves at risk of injury and not being able to pursue professional sports careers if that happens, et cetera.
That's true.
And so I think that the whole thing comes from an antitrust suit, but eventually all the schools, I believe, starting really soon, probably as early as 2025, are going to be able to have more direct compensation, and that'll take care of a lot of these weird-ass issues.
Man, football's way more interesting than I thought.
And I've also heard it in terms of, like, college basketball, too, is another big one that is facing these same issues. So I am really curious to see how this legislation unfolds and what comes of it.
We need to be talking more about the arts happening on our UNLV campus. I love walking across those beautifully manicured grounds and making a beeline to the magnificent Oldenburg flashlight sculpture by the Performing Arts Center to see great performances. Like on Saturday, September 28th, where a one-night-only dance performance of Body Traffic is happening at 7:30 p.m. Direct from LA, Body Traffic is brimming with stunning performers, technical mastery, and commitment to the most innovative repertoire created by the most in-demand choreographers. It's a cutting-edge dance company taking the stage with compelling works that embody the energy, sophistication, and sheer joy of dance. This program includes pieces based on the music of Etta James, James Brown, and others. Go see what Broadway World has called absolutely joyous and oh so entertaining. Buy your tickets today for Body Traffic at pac.unlv.edu.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
All right. So, MJ, I want to come to you because the first 2 ballots for our next election, including for the next president, have already been cast in Nevada. How is that possible?
Yeah, so I'm going to take you back a little bit and ask a question. Imagine having to drive 96 miles to vote.
Oh, God.
Would you do it?
I mean, it depends. Am I free? Do I have a whole day free to make that drive? Because literally right now, like, I live within walking distance of my polling station. I think I always have.
Yeah. So that was kind of the central part of this story. So back in 2014, the Walker River Paiute Tribe and the Pyramid Lake Tribe said that they were driving up to 96 miles to get to a polling station. And so they sued the state over violations to the Voter Rights Act. And the court sided with them and actually opened up satellite locations. But fast forward to currently now, we've actually expanded a system that we've had in place since 2014 called the Effective Absentee System for Election, or EASE. This system was created in 2014 to accommodate soldiers overseas from the United States Armed Forces to be able to vote overseas. And then it was extended in 2021 for people with disabilities. And so a law passed in 2023, and now it's open to our 28 indigenous communities to use. We don't know how many are going to partake, but yes, the first 2 cast their ballot. So this is like a long, drawn-out process of what started a decade ago to address a lot of historic issues and systemic injustices to actually get polling places for our Native Indigenous communities. And so, yeah, the first 2 cast electronically.
So cool. And both votes were Native votes. It's super exciting.
Yes. And so it's not a new system. It's just extending what the system we've already used for other populations since 2014. So
military folks, just people who would otherwise qualify for absentee ballots.
Absolutely. And some other states around the country also have versions of this too, where it allows people overseas or even some communities like people with disabilities to actually use electronic and online means to cast a vote. So it's new, but not terribly new, and it's still not widely available.
I mean, it's fascinating to me because we've also seen an increased Native vote engagement from within Indigenous communities. And a lot of that Native vote has been credited with turning Arizona blue. So everyone deserves the right to vote. I'm sure you guys heard about India. Well, they will walk a ballot machine like into the mountains so like a lone monk can vote. Like that is the kind of system I want in America, that kind of inclusivity.
Absolutely.
However, this system is entirely online, right? And I know that there's more trust in a paper ballot than a system that can be hacked. I mean, David, what do you think? Is this going to affect like voter trust in our voting system, or is this the way of the future?
It's a real loaded question, Sarah.
Sorry, David.
Because everything these days, no matter how it's presented, seems to be affecting quote unquote voter trust. We had Cisco Aguilar on this podcast talking about election integrity. And
I really enjoyed that interview, by the way.
Thanks.
People should look it up. David did it. I really enjoyed that interview. And it was just like, he's just such an interesting person, right? He's got a real faith and passion for our voter system.
And bottom line is they got it covered. They are securing against any kind of hackery, whatever. And I think the bottom line that Cisco Aguilar and most correct thinking people, whether they're on the right or left, would agree is that the more eligible voters who can vote with less barriers is a good thing. And so, this accommodation, and hats off to the Secretary of State's office, they are doing a really good job promoting and publicizing. They've put out maps on where the various tribal bands can access it if they live on, different areas of reservations throughout the state. But to your point, Sarah, I can't imagine that some people won't take the opportunity to suggest that this is opening us up to more fraud without any proof or evidence of that.
I'm going to go ahead and name names. It's got to be former President Donald Trump. He's been exploiting and trying to undermine our election since 2020, essentially, with saying falsely that there has been a widespread mass voter fraud. Our former Secretary of State, Barbara Sagaski, who is a Republican, did an independent analysis and didn't find anything that pointed
Not to mention over a dozen court cases in Nevada, all of which
absolutely
supported the same idea. Our elections are safe.
And there's a lot of play around this country with Trump-aligned politicians throughout the state trying to do things that undermine elections and even call into question things like early voting, something that we've done that's opened up access to the ballot historically that has been safe. Again, another tried and true measure that we've relied on for years.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, MJ, actually, I want to ask about that specifically, if I can jump in. I mean, first of all, this is the first state that I've lived in and one of the few where a ballot just shows up at your house, like mail-in voting.
Yes.
You don't have to opt into it, which I think is also wonderful and also has been pretty hotly contested. There's been a lot of people making the effort to get rid of it, too. I mean, I guess the issue, too, because there's other things to consider with early voting. Some people would argue that it is too early to have enough information to know what candidate you want to win, in November, right? So how early is too early? Like, what is the earliest that you feel comfortable voting, MJ?
In normal election times, which we not have been in a while, it would make sense if you have candidates that maybe they have overlapping, there's like a Venn diagram of things that they overlapped on that you agree with. But I think there's so many candidates that have such stark policy differences that, I don't know, this mythical undecided voter that I keep seeing endless stories about, like I don't understand it because there's a stark difference between the type of candidates that we're talking about right now, especially in the presidential race. And so I think in one hand, like in normal elections, there is a worry that like if you vote too early, you're going to miss some late breaking October news that's going to maybe tip the scale on someone that you were kind of hesitant on already. But on the other hand, like I said, there's so many stark differences between some of the candidates at the top of the ballot that it'd have to be something crazy that would have to drop in October that would...
That's some season finale shit, Figler, what do you think? Would you feel comfortable voting right now?
I like to think that I'm a high information voter really from the onset of when candidates announce and that I track all this stuff. And I'm going to say I am a little uneasy with the races that maybe aren't readily high information races to vote too early just because.
Oh, my gosh. Like judges.
Yeah. And I understand the people who don't like early voting at all and people who are traditionalists who vote only on election day because at that point, inarguably, they have the most information available. I do feel comfortable voting pretty early. It is a convenience, again, less of a barrier to make sure that an eligible voter can cast their vote. But, it's a real fine line. I think if you go too far back, you do capture a lot of uninformed votes. And that's okay. It's America. You could vote on election day and be completely uninformed. But I guess as long as it's safe, secure, and everyone's doing a good job as they can to get information out there, I'm okay. I'm okay early. This early, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested to see what happens because this new system is going to enfranchise about 70,000 Native voters.
Yeah.
So that is significant.
Well, not that they weren't. I just want to say this. It's not like out of whole cloth that none of those individuals ever voted before. Although even in the Nevada Current, there was a recent op-ed that said, yeah, but it's harder, especially like internet connectivity, even with this e-system. And I think the Secretary of State's probably been responding to that sort of thing. But I don't know that we're talking about a whole bunch of new voters. But yes, I wholeheartedly agree that if you're making it easier for traditionally disenfranchised in the biggest sense group, it is nice to bring them easily back into the fold or to allow them to continue to cast their votes.
Or, into the fold for the first time.
Easily. Like ease, like the system.
Like the system.
Ease.
I mean,
that could not
great.
have been a coincidence.
It was not, I'm sure. But, there are plenty of reasons why someone who is Indigenous may not want to be involved in the federal government. So watching the Native vote movement happen and watching Native people now in the highest branches of our government, it's super exciting. And just to sort of reemphasize that it is our state government that's stepping up and doing this, but it is a result of a 2016 lawsuit put forward by our Paiute tribes here in Nevada that has made this happen. So, I'm super excited. You know what? I wish that early in-person voting was just like 1 week earlier. I wish I had 3 weeks to do it instead of 2 weeks. You know what I mean? All right. So let's get into a little, I don't know, y'all want some tea? You want some drama? I got it for you.
Let's have some tea. Let's have some drama.
All right. Yeah. So Mackle-More's back in the news, y'all. That guy, I know I was not expecting it. And it seems like, I'm already inserting my personal opinion here, but it's like, this seems like being made into a way bigger deal than it actually is. Okay, because it's Mackle-More. All right, so here's what happened. So Mackle-More was slated to headline the musical part of the Neon City Festival, upcoming a new festival here in Las Vegas. But last weekend, he did a concert for Palestine Will Live Forever Fest in Seattle's Seward Park. He's a native of Seattle. And the full comments are a little confusing and they weren't documented, but basically at one point during his show, he said, America. The full comments that were recorded just say straight up, say it. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to stop you. Yeah, America. I assume it was like a call and response. The audience
I think it was a call and
cheered.
response. I think he got the audience, some of the audience chanting and some of the audience booing, apparently.
Yeah. But after he said "Fuck America," he clarified his comments in a statement on Instagram. He did not apologize. So as a result of basically just the "Fuck America" part of it, which is why I'm sort of surprised, he has been removed as the headliner of the Neon City Festival here in Las Vegas. So he will no longer be headlining. He lost this gig. So y'all, MJ, is this a free speech issue? Like, are the organizers' actions defensible or understandable? Like, what's your take?
Is this cancel culture? Everything that everyone's warned me about? That is.
Turns out it works both ways.
Yeah, I know, apparently.
Cancel culture is for all.
I will say, and you mentioned this, I've desperately tried to go back and find the
full
comments
quote
leading up to this, because I wanted to see the context of this all, because nothing has been documented on it, and that bothers me to actually have a full opinion on this if I don't know the context of it all. But what bothers me even more is the fact that we're focusing on this "Fuck America," which, if you have a visceral reaction to it, I understand. But I think we have to put in context the reason of why that sentiment might have come out and what was happening. And again, goes back to everything that we're watching unfold in Palestine. People are going to say very heated things in the moment. And I think that's what Mackle-No got caught in. Whether you agree with it or not, that is your choice. But we have to actually understand this context and not hyper-focus on like just I think
Two
hyper-focus
words.
on the comment itself. We have to know what the context that comment exists in.
David, what do you think? Is this his right to free speech? Should there have been repercussions for him?
As MJ said, I don't know that we're all focusing on the right things here, but I'm going to go on a different thread for a second. And that is, what the hell is this festival, and why are they even reaching out to Mackle-No-More to be in it in the first place? And I'm not saying that in a joking way. This is a festival that was born out of downtown properties complaining that F1 was killing their business.
Right.
And so the LVCVA gave a grant of at least $1 million, maybe more, to do some sort of programming for themselves, which no one is calling counter-programming, but it's definitely programming for the downtown and downtown experience area to get bodies there to augment the loss of business that comes from at least the experience of F1 year one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't even know why they would book Mackle-No-More
In the first place.
and purportedly pay and purportedly pay him $400,000 of arguably public funds for a headline performance. I mean, the guy literally hasn't been in the zeitgeist for over a decade.
I do like Downtown. That song still slaps. Sorry.
Fair enough. But, you know, this is an extension of corporate casino culture.
It's truly a strange story.
They don't go for someone who would put aside the complexities of the multiple conflicts in the Middle East. Someone who gets a crowd chanting "F America" probably isn't going to play well on the Fremont Street experience from the perspective of the casino owners. Straight
I
up.
gotta say, respect to Mackle-No-More, he's sticking to his beliefs. He's being outspoken. I am sort of surprised, though, that, he's getting canceled over F America. It feels very nationalist in a way that Las Vegas is not.
I don't know that he's getting canceled. I just don't think that it's a fit
I mean literally canceled.
Well, I don't know, because no one's being transparent about it, which they should be. And my guess is because some public funds are being used, we should find out who canceled whom here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll never know now.
Mackle-No-More, my friends. Mackle-No-More.
But who do you think, which musician should be the next headliner, and what completely outlandish controversy will get them removed? I've decided it's going to be Lorde, and it's going to be a birther controversy where she's going to say she has documents that prove that President Trump was not born in America.
Wow.
Canceled.
What?
I was not expecting that. And
I know.
love
Can you
Lorde.
believe it? Lorde. All right, Dave, what do you think? MJ?
Ja Rule, and it's going to be for... We gave him funding for something that didn't come to fruition, even though we know his history with Fire Festival, but we just can't help ourselves but to give outside millionaires and billionaires funding.
Ja Rule, you gotta cool it. You gotta cool it after Fry. All right, David Figler, who do you think it's gonna be and what's the controversy?
I'm just wondering if they could get the Gingham style guy.
Psy. Oh, I would go see Psy.
Psy, who also has made some interesting F America comments before he became famous. So I think it would be back to the same thing. They would get Psy, they would get him to come on to do Gingham style, and then they would find the old YouTube videos of him saying "F America," and then they'd have to do him again too. So yes, just repeating the cycle, because Fremont Street experience sometimes doesn't learn its lessons. Let's just say that.
As a Lorde stan, I have to come back and say that would be a huge step up for not just from Mackle-No-More, but for Fremont too, because Lorde is amazing.
Lorde.
She's headlined Life is Beautiful. Yeah,
not Psy.
She's not a one-hit wonder. Just want to say, as a Lorde stan, she's amazing. So
Hey, I'm not knocking Lorde
Bring her
down.
up.
I'd be excited to have her, but it's too bad about that birther scandal.
They might as well just get William Hung at this point
I hope everyone knows that I'm kidding.
to just sing Mackle-No-More songs off key.
Thank you two. It's been a delightful conversation as always.
thanks so much for having me.
Wow. What a wild ride. Thank you.
Always. That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. Our executive producer is Sonia Cho Swanson. Our interim executive producer is Layla Mohammed. Our producer is Myron Kaplan. Our newsletter editor is Rob Katchel-Reese, and our hosts are David Figler and myself, Sarah Lohman. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and all the kimonos. We record this show on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed this show, why not tell a friend? Rate our show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Take care. Listen, the thing that's excited me the most about this, and talk about Mackle-No-More being culturally relevant again, he has made us say so many times this episode that we'll have to rate it as explicit.
Adult only.
It's going to be an adult-only episode. I think it's 3. We get 3 cusses.
Sorry, all you cool kids who listen
3 cusses, and we have to officially rate it.
On the way to middle school.